Hello, everybody. Welcome back. My name is Loredana Valenzano Slau, and I am an associate professor in chemistry at Michigan Tech. So today I have with me an alumna from the chemistry department, Cathleen Saraza. She graduated in spring 2018 with a bachelor degree in chemistry. And then she moved for a PhD at Wayne State University, where she is currently, and I believe she's going to finish soon her third year. So she's on track to be done soon enough, and this makes me particularly proud of her, I must say. So welcome, Kathleen. It's very nice to see you again after all this time, actually.
Likewise, it's been a while.
It is, yeah, especially in the last year where things have been so wild for everybody.
Yeah.
All right, so I think I'm going to put the light of the show on you. There you go. And we can start our little conversation by, I'm going to ask you to tell us something about who you are and who you were before coming to Tech, and why you decided to study chemistry at Michigan Tech.
Okay, so as you know, my name is Cathleen Saraza, but a lot of people call me Kat. I grew up in Sterling Heights, Michigan, which is close to Metro Detroit area. And throughout my public school education, I mostly wanted to go into something like math, science, technology at one point. And after high school, I realized I really like chemistry. And going into tech, I was like, wow, like their program seems really good for me, considering I'm used to more personal experiences in education through my high school, since I was going to a specialized STEM program for half the day and then going to like a homeschool for the non-STEM subjects the other half. So since tech provided like small class sizes and more personalized experiences, I actually decided in the beginning to go for the biochemistry and molecular biology major at Tech. And we can get into how that evolved into a chemistry subject later, but that's, I guess, my intro before going to Tech. I also really like music, which also kind of shaped my experience at Tech, which again, we'll get into later. So.
Yes. I'm actually looking forward. I was hoping you were going to mention the music aspect too, so I'm happy that we are getting into that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so basically small environment and opportunities also, in a sense, to realize yourself not only as a chemist, scientist, whatever, but also as a musician then. Yes?
Right. Yes.
That's nice. That's super cool, actually.
Thank you.
Speaking of which, okay, so you were here, you studied, you worked hard on your academics, but it seems like you had some time to do other things outside school. Which were? Can you say something about that?
So I really dived into the music scene at Michigan Tech. So throughout my years, I participated in pep band, concert band, Superior Wind Symphony, jazz band even. It was very interesting actually because I play bassoon, which I mean many people play, but not as common as, let's say, like a flute or clarinet or saxophone even. So actually doing bassoon jazz was really nice for like a semester or two. That was, eye-opening. I got the creative freedom to do that from my music director, Mike Christensen. I also did pep band where I was both a flutist or fluter as well as a conductor,
Yes.
and I participated on both sides. So I was part of the ensemble in a way, like supporting the whole sound. And then I was also the conductor, which gives the ensemble the opportunity to do what we do best. I mean, Loredana, you're familiar with the pep band
Yeah, I
ensemble.
am. I am.
So we take a lot of creative liberties and freedoms, and we support our sports teams and the university with various events. So there were those aspects, as well as being part of a more traditional bassoon role in the Superior Wind Symphony, where we have a lot of repertoire that's played commonly by many ensembles, both young and more seasoned. So I had a lot of experience exposing myself to different kinds of music to balance myself with chemistry. Because let me tell you now, like chemistry is hard, just like any other
Sure.
college
Mhm.
degree, right? And I have to keep myself sane by doing things that aren't chemistry. So I was
Yeah,
really happy I could do that.
yeah, it is absolutely important to have a valve, where all the steam can go through and
Yeah.
and also use other parts of your brain, actually, right? And
Yes.
on top of that, express your own soul, what you are as not as not formally, not in formulas or in chemical reactions
Right.
or how to use an instrument, but actually as a human being, right? So
Right.
yeah, I play a bit various instruments, and I wish I could have the time to do more, but every time, even if I'm not good at all, every time is still pleasurable, to be able to
Right.
put something together or singing, and it's just what humans are. And the arts are such an important part of our life as humans, I think. Being able to express ourselves in a way which everybody can understand without going to school, basically, right?
Precisely.
Right? It's like,
Right.
yeah, it's like music, visual arts, singing, and yeah, there's no language barrier, knowledge barrier. It's just for everybody who is ready to accept it. So it's beautiful. Music is just a gift, right?
It is. And it's kind of funny you say that because about how language is no barrier. Because when I was into jazz for quite some time, my directors would talk about how even though they would go to different places, or they'd have people come from different places of the world, like Japan, let's say from Europe or something, and maybe English isn't like
Right.
their strongest language, in jazz, people know the classics. So when someone would start playing like a riff, let's say, people
Yes.
would pick up on it and they could like collaborate and do like,
Yes.
pass off solos. And that's like a very beautiful thing, right?
Yes, yes, yeah. It's beyond barriers, and I know I'm not saying anything new, but it sounds really what it is, right? So
Right.
it is music, it is art. Excellent, very very nice, very very nice. Yeah, I remember how uh, how how surprised I was when you told me that you actually were becoming the director of the pep
Yeah.
band, because I mean, let's face it, you are not a giant. And I
Yeah.
remember I remember asking you, Catherine, wow, I mean, you can keep at hand all those big boys, because the pep band, there's a lot of predominance, right,
Right.
of males, and they are big boys. And you told me, yeah, yeah, I can do it. I mean, I'm very strict with them, and they obey. I said, oh, that's good. I mean, it speaks highly about you and who you are, and how you can be firm,
Right.
beyond your appearance physically. Meaning, again, you're not a giant. Uh,
Well, you know,
And you're very
it kind
sweet.
of,
I mean, you
thank you.
you come up as as a very sweet person, not in a weak way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in a gentle way, gentle, right? And
Thank
so
you.
that contrast is is really something, I think.
I think, it kind of goes both ways, right? Because you have to be accepted by the pep band in order to like have them trust you to be the conductor.
That is
And
true.
I kind of contributed to high school experiences actually, because I had a lot of experience being able to conduct and to lead band in my marching band. And then I translated some of those skills to pep band. And yeah, like sometimes you gotta be strict, but sometimes you just gotta know how to read the room, right? So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
good to
yeah,
be funny. It's good
yeah,
to be, open to new ideas, to be flexible. Like they've taught me a lot too about how
yeah,
to be flexible.
yeah,
Sports situations,
yeah,
anything can happen and they want you to play and
yeah.
people will shout ideas to you and you're like, oh, okay, this is actually good. So like it's both ways, but I do appreciate you saying those very kind things.
And actually, you hit an important point, which is flexibility.
Right.
And when you say, it's both ways, it's you as a conductor and the band, and it's the same feeling that I feel when I'm in class teaching. It's me
Yeah.
and the students, but it's actually us together. We have to reach the end of the semester in one piece, especially if you think about physical chemistry 1 and 2. It's like, okay, so let's work on this and let's get through this together at our best. And yes, the flexibility of understanding others needs and others requirements and need for help too at times. And it's the same for me. I need help too, right, in being
Right.
able to do my job at my best, whatever that is. Yeah, very good, very good. Um, okay, so I have another question for you. So, what? Let's talk specifically about the chemistry department now. Okay,
Yep.
and it would be interesting to know um, if you have lived some experiences referring to opportunities that were open to you by specifically the chemistry department at Tech.
Okay. So yeah, I think there's quite a good amount of opportunities that arrived from being in the chemistry department at Tech. I think first, especially after starting graduate school, I realized that the curriculum that the chemistry department had, where they involved like all the maths up to Calc 3 and DiffyQ and Lin-Alge, that really helped when I started going into my specialty of physical chemistry because that math actually helped a lot. Like, and I realized some other people didn't have those opportunities to take um, all those higher level chemistry and math classes. Another opportunity, like I said before, was the smaller class size. Like when I first started at Tech, there were probably around 10 of us, and we stuck together throughout the 4-ish years that we were going through the courseworks. And just those bonds, even if we're not like super close, we know we can still rely on each other to help each other through all the difficult homeworks and labs, and just, rely on each other just when we need support. So I'm very grateful for that. I also liked how for labs, especially um, when there were like the more general classes, like general chemistry 1 and 2, as well as orgo 1 and 2, I did appreciate how there were like sections specifically for the chem majors, just
Okay.
because, it's different being around the same people. I think I'm a creature of consistency, meaning that I like kind of the same things, right? So it's comforting being in the same classes with people or
Yeah.
seeing the same faces. It's kind of like going off of high school where, you see the same people every day.
Yep.
Tech provided that consistency that really allowed me to thrive in lab, especially when, some of the organic reactions where it's like, you're working with some dangerous things and you're like, oh, I just go to my friend and I'm like, oh my God, like start freaking out, but then they calm me down or something,
Sure,
right?
sure. Yeah.
So having that support from the department academically was really great. And also, I had the opportunity to, bolster my teaching skills through working in the Chemistry Learning Center for 3 years. And I'm grateful that they took me on after my first year. I was a bit surprised, but, they probably saw something in me that I didn't see in myself at the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And I had the opportunity to work both one-on-one with students as well as in study groups, or like, I forget what they call it now, but like 4 or 5 students in one tutoring session.
Huh?
And I got to know the students, know how to, I guess, keep in touch with them, even as I got into higher courseworks and how to teach best, right? So they taught me how to be a good teacher, or at least a better teacher, as well as my colleagues in the Chemistry Learning Center, since we could rely on each other for when, let's say, I didn't know how to do a certain problem, I could be like, hey, could you help me out with this? And we'd figure it out together.
Yep.
So that taught me like collaboration and just how to improve teaching chemistry. It also bolstered my skills with like the basics, just because if you are able to teach someone the basics of, let's say, general chemistry, that means you know it pretty well. And
Yes.
it helped a lot when I started TAing. And in terms of, I guess, let's see what else. I think another thing was being able to do research in the department.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
I kind of like jumped around between departments for research for like money reasons, because you know summer jobs is like important when you're staying up here. But anyway, I got the opportunity to do paid research with his name was Professor Ja, and it was for a semester, and I got to have the experience of like working with things I didn't necessarily have familiarity with.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to see what it's like to, be a graduate student, be in lab, having to, move on to the next step of a project, or if something doesn't work, how to troubleshoot that.
Sure. Sure.
So having those experiences was really important for my ultimate decision after tech. And I guess one final opportunity was being able to be open with all the professors. For me, like always, I like consistency, right? And it was great being able to talk to all the professors at Tech throughout my years about if I didn't know what was going on in class, or if I didn't know how to approach a problem, both chemistry and, like just about academics, being able to just say hi. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's really important,
Yeah.
because being able to have those connections with
Yeah.
professors, it just makes going through chemistry, which is actually quite hard sometimes, more uh, tangible, right?
Yeah. It's it's something that's an aspect that it's very important to me too.
Hmm.
So when I analyzed this last year of COVID, being online and doing research online, which for me is easier than for others because we are theoretical computational, so we can work from wherever we want, we want really. So it's much easier. So in that
Right.
sense, I don't have any issue, or complaint. But what I miss is walking on campus and hearing, "Hey, Dr. V." That
Yeah.
that I miss tremendously. I mean, having and me being able to reply, "Hey, John," like we know each other, and it's a pleasure to see each other on campus, even if we don't really cross, but from one corner to the other, or just hands on when we walk into the library. That's something I miss. And
Yeah.
so, and of course, being in the class environment and having the chance to get to know a bit the students, the problems. Also, my door is open, and I miss not having my door open, because even if we are in Zoom, yeah, they can always contact me, but it's an extra barrier, right? I mean, there is an email that has to be sent. We need to find a
The
slot that, I
time.
mean, it's just
Yeah.
different. It's not spontaneous. Let's say one has to think of doing those things.
Right.
And so if the only aspect that I'm suffering a bit of, I think it's really the lack of interaction with the students in the class, but also outside in the normal environment that we have in the area also,
I
So,
agree. It's
yeah,
been very hard,
yeah,
like having to social distance,
yeah,
but not being able to say, hey, like passing in the
exactly,
hallway. So,
exactly. Just like that, like a natural gesture, So,
mhm.
I understand when you say, I mean, it's nice that you're saying that you felt like you could talk to the professors and have a good relationship with them. Uh, so that's important for us too. I know it is for me too.
Mhm.
Despite at times I'm a bit harsh with students, I know, but I'm not perfect either. I like
Yeah.
your face. It's like, yeah, you're harsh.
Oh no.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I wanted you to say, oh no.
I think that no, sometimes you do have to, like again, you have to like read
Yes,
the room, right? So
yes,
you
yes,
have to know when to, be
yeah,
harsh. You have to know when to like,
yeah.
be more understanding. So
So
I don't think it's a bad thing,
yeah.
Loredana. That's what I'm getting at.
Okay, all right. Thank you. You're very kind. The other thing that I learned in time is to actually to get to class, especially again, weekend one.
Hmm.
And if I don't feel right that day, I just say to the students. So I say, look, I'm grumpy today. I didn't
Hmm.
wake up on the right foot, so please forgive me. Okay. But
Hmm.
then the magic happens that when I get into the lecture and I interact with them by the end, even in between, I'm just fine.
Right.
And I always make sure that if I started the class with a bit of a warning to them, I always make sure that I have, 1 minute at the end extra to say thank you because now I'm fine and it's thanks to you. And that's again, it's like music. It's a gift that
Yeah.
we cannot see, we cannot touch, but it's there, and it's that energy and that almost mystical force that we can create, right, with other people. So
I
that's
agree.
that's what hopefully we'll have the chance to experience that again soon.
Yeah, I hope so too. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Again, for those watching this, maybe 2 years from now, we are in March 2021, and we are 1 year almost to the date into the COVID-19 pandemic. So in case, people maybe are watching this later in time and say, what are they talking about? Or
Y-
50 years from now, like,
this is history we're kind of making, right? Like
ah,
just by doing this.
it is right. It is right.
Hmm.
It's pretty
Hmm.
cool. Well, thanks for your openness also, to
Yeah,
open part of your thoughts that maybe you don't have so often the chance to share. So this is important for me and for us. I think I have one last question for you. That's
sure.
okay. And I know something, of course, but I really would like you to share what you are actually doing now,
Hmm.
and what um, what your next step will be in life. So you left tech, you graduated from tech. Let's say this again in in spring 2018,
Hmm.
and then what happened?
So, starting August 2018, I started my program as a PhD student at Wayne State in chemistry. And I eventually made my way to deciding I really want to be in the physical chemistry department under Dr. Aaron Ruri's group. Um, and we're an experimental group, but we have like both experimentalists and theoretical physical chemists. What I do specifically, I work with different spectroscopies. So there's some things that might not be too familiar to people, but I use Raman spectroscopy, uh, terahertz spectroscopy, which
Oh,
is like
oh,
being
nice.
able to use lasers to create a sort of probe to be able to tell us things on a very tiny level about what materials are doing when excited by light.
So I have to stop you because
Sure.
I have to ask you this because one of my projects is about infrared terahertz spectroscopy of explosives.
Oh, wow.
Do you do that a bit too?
So we don't work with explosives.
Okay.
Infrared terahertz, I mean, we work with terahertz. Terahertz is far infrared, if I'm
Yeah.
thinking correctly,
Yeah.
right? So we use the same spectroscopy, but instead of explosives, we use it more for like materials for, let's say, solar cells, energy storage.
Okay.
So we're on like a different, I guess,
Yeah.
spectrum of what you can use terahertz
Yeah.
spectroscopy to
Okay.
study,
Gotcha.
right?
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha.
But that's pretty cool, Loredana, I will
But
say.
maybe I can pick your brain someday and see
Sure,
what you think about that. Being an experimentalist, because
right.
being a quantum chemist and a computational, let's face it. I mean, for me, it's easier to put together an experiment, and then as long as the computational and theoretical experiment is put together in the proper way, then
Hmm.
I can get all sort of results. Meaning, but then my always the problem is to prove that the results that I'm getting are semi-correct, or at least they
Right.
can provide some sort of insights. And
Right.
it's very difficult at time to get to find in the literature experimental results, especially if you, like me, I'm not an expert in the experimental
Hmm.
procedures, and so for me it's a bit difficult also to judge how good or bad maybe experimental results can be, right? With
That's
respect to what
fair.
I'm doing. And so picking the brain of an experimentalist who knows, that would be super, super cool for me. So maybe we can talk about that in the future, just
Yeah.
to have your opinion, and then we can share some thoughts.
No,
That would,
that'd be super cool
that
if
would
we
be
did
nice.
that in the
Yeah.
future.
But please go ahead with your description. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, that's fine. So anyway, I work with those kinds of spectroscopies. I could also work with sometimes we do like X-ray diffraction or luminescence,
Yeah.
photoluminescence, transient absorption. Really, when we come down to bare bones, we use lasers to figure out certain properties of different materials that could be useful for um, energy storage or alternative energy
Sure.
sources.
Sure.
So that's what I'm working on right now.
Sure.
Specifically, right now, being that it's been a while since I've been in lab and having able to work with the lasers, I'm working with gallium arsenide and molybdenum disulfide, two
Uh-huh.
semiconductors that have been used a lot in the past for lasers and energy cells and whatnot. I'm using terahertz spectroscopy to study how the evolution of charge carriers or electrons that, you know, transport energy throughout the material
Sure.
form when using different energies of light through terahertz spectroscopy. So
Wow.
that's specifically what I'm working on right now. And I hope to transition into my main project, perovskites, later, since they're
Oh,
also very good candidates for these types of energetic materials due to their ease of both making and fine tuning. So you can like put in different chemicals
yeah.
to uh, change the properties to
Yeah.
make it do what you
Enhance.
want.
Yeah. Yeah. Enhance properties. Yeah. So
Right,
are you going to work, if you can say, I mean, I realize that at times there are, uh,
right.
yeah, you're right. Are you going to make perovskites, or you are going to use natural perovskites? Do you know?
So we're trying to make perovskites. I work more on like analyzing them, but I think I will have to transition into making them.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But for now, we want to make and analyze perovskite films, lead-based films, lead ammonium. Yep. And we hope to have some data with that by the end of the year. But we have to focus on like what we can do short term, which in this case would be the semiconductors, and
Gotcha.
then see how the year goes. Because
Sure.
things can change a lot
Oh,
in lab, right?
absolutely. Yeah, I can. Especially now, right?
Right.
Yeah, it must be a big question mark floating on everybody's head all the
Hmm.
time.
I've found it's just a lot easier on the mind and the soul to just focus on what's in front of me rather
Yeah.
than like what's happening at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
I think
small steps, as long as the goal is kind of clear somehow, even if it's still foggy, but eventually
right.
one gets there, right? But still have some plan for the future, but short future. Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, short term future. Yeah. So, how do you see yourself after the PhD? Because I mean, clearly you are on the right track. You're doing well, so there's no doubt about your success. What do you see yourself doing after the PhD, after being Dr. Saraza?
So I want to try and get a postdoc, and get more experience with just being a doctor, I guess.
Yeah,
I because I think the goal right now is to try and become a faculty member later on
yeah.
at some
Oh, right,
university,
right.
being able to do research and teach and write the grant proposals. But, at the same time, this is where the flexibility comes, right?
Yeah,
So I will still try to, let's say, see what other options are out there for me. Faculty is like what I'm focusing on right now. But what I found throughout my college experience is that, what you didn't think you'd do in the end, you end up doing. So maybe I might go into like science policy. I might end up working at a company. So I think that answers your question. I'm pretty flexible, but my goal right now is to be faculty member. I'm not opposed to, taking like a different path though, just
sure.
based on what the job economy is like when I graduate and like what I feel my abilities will be best fitting into for a career, right?
Sure.
Because that's very important for me to be able to have the life I want while still, doing what I love as a job, right?
Yeah, I mean, you cannot do well for others if you cannot do well for yourself, right? Meaning,
Right.
if you are miserable, well, it's difficult then to be of help to others and be a teacher, for example, or a researcher, whatever. So
Right.
certainly, but it looks like you have some ideas. And honestly, I would think that regardless, the United States is the best place to be, regardless what some people may say.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's where everybody wants to be, really, to have to realize their dreams.
Right.
And I'm the living proof of that. And,
Yes.
and I think your parents are too, probably.
Mhm.
And so and there's no reason to say that you cannot, switch in between jobs and do something good in academia and then move even within academia more towards the path which is towards policy. I don't know, women in science. I mean, you have a nice story to tell about yourself, your background, right?
Right.
And your willingness of suffering, really, of working hard to realize your potential. That's all about it. That's all
Yeah.
about it, right?
That's
So,
like one way to look at graduate school in a way, just because you put yourself through more school than probably a lot of other people want to go through, right? But like
for,
the goal
for
in the
not
end is to get it.
not much money, right? Meaning,
Right.
let's face it. So yeah, I mean, being in academia is not you don't become
Right.
wealthy. You don't become wealthy, right? I mean, you
Right.
have a life, absolutely, but yeah, and you don't become famous most of the times either. So it's just a nice fit to actually, I believe, more and more to do good, and to train, really. I believe in this, and I know it sounds like an old fashion but thing, but train the next generation. We need good people in the right places, people who can think, who have strong ethics, and
Mhm.
who can do well for others in the future. So if I'm able to do that with students, that's my actual reward.
Reward.
You know,
Right.
giving them the passion that I have and whatever I know and I don't know, and I can learn from them too. So again, it's give and take. No, it's a symbiotic
Relationship.
relationship.
Yep.
Exactly. So I think that across this conversation, you have hit that point many times through music, the arts, science, teaching,
Mm-hmm.
and who you are. So thank you for opening your mind and your heart to me and to us today.
Yeah, that's no problem. I think it's very important just because, um, I don't know, I feel like sometimes it's just people can't, they
Yeah.
don't feel like they can be this open, right? And
Yes,
maybe they
yes,
just need to see that it's okay to have this openness and,
yeah, it
to
is.
practice being open about these things.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I appreciate you giving this
Oh,
opportunity.
yeah, no, thank you for accepting it in a pinch, really, right? You replied
Hmm.
very, very soon to me when I sent out the the question. Well, I think we can wrap up this. Kathleen, thanks so much for your time. Is there anything else that you want to say before we say bye?
I think I would just say if you're thinking about going to tech, I highly recommend it because I feel like you can find your place here. And there's a lot of good opportunities in chemistry. I don't think you get the same culture in the department um, in many other places. So I really recommend if you're still kind of wishy-washy, come visit, come talk to people. I'm pretty sure you're gonna like what you find here. So yeah,
Well, thank you, Kathleen. That's a
yeah,
nice way to close it. Thank you. So, well, we'll stay in touch,
yeah.
and it was wonderful to see you again after three years, and
Likewise.
knowing that you're doing so well, and I know you're working hard because that's the only way really to get things done. And
Right.
that speaks highly about who you are, the person that you are, the woman that you are, and the future professor or policymaker, whatever you want to be, because you can be anything you want to be, you decide to be. So thank you again,
Thank you.
and we stay in touch, all right?
Yeah.
Okay. You
Okay.
take care. You
You
take care.
too.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.